1866, and then press pound. Press pound again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press star 9 to request to speak. When it is your turn to speak, an automated Zoom voice will ask you to press star 6 to unmute. Let me repeat. Call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 160-871-1866 and then press pound. Then press pound again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press star 9 to request to speak. When it is your turn to speak, an automated Zoom voice will ask the caller to press star 6 to unmute.
Mr. Bencomo, you frozen.
We are ready to proceed with public comment, sir. Mr. Chair, would you like to proceed with public comment?
I am so sorry. I was remuted, but we should go forward to public comment. We'll do 10 minutes of public comment and let's proceed from there.
Hello, can you hear me?
Caller, state your name and items you want to speak on. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Charlie, and I want to leave a general comment.
Okay, you have 1 minute.
Yes, I'd like to leave a general comment regarding the emergency housing vouchers. Los Angeles has been allocated about 7,000 emergency housing vouchers, but only roughly 4,000 people have received these vouchers. Of these 4,000, less than 500 people have actually been successful in finding housing. Given that the housing vouchers were set to be available on July 1st last year in 2021, there's no reason that 3,000 vouchers have not yet been distributed. There are currently over 10,000 people who have turned in emergency housing voucher applications and are waiting to find out if they have a voucher coming. Additionally, it seems out of touch to impose time constraints on people trying to find housing with both the emergency housing vouchers and general Section 8 vouchers. There are a number of barriers to housing, including landlord discrimination, credit scores, past evictions, outstanding tickets, and other issues that require people, particularly those of the demographic the vouchers are intended to serve, to seek legal aid. As you know, resolving these issues can take a matter of months.
Speaker, your time is up.
Thank you, caller. Caller, please state your name and the items you want to speak on. Go ahead.
Hi there, my name is Valerie. I'm a student here at the University of California State from Northridge. I wanted to comment on item number 2 regarding the affordable housing project, the Manchester Urban Homes. I wanted to mention that a lot of the money that goes towards creating housing projects or apartments comes from the parking spaces. And if I wanted to mention the impact that not adding the addition of parking spaces, we could benefit from that in the way that not only would we be saving money, but we would be incentivizing people to use their bicycles, and this would also cut down on carbon emissions. So I think that it would be worth looking into to create these affordable housing projects without the implementation of parking spaces. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Caller, please state your name and the items you want to speak on. Caller, please state your name and the items you want to speak on. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Annalie, and I would like to speak on available agenda item 2.
Okay, you have 1 minute.
In terms of agenda item 2, I urge the Housing Committee to consider how there is a continued increase in cost of living in LA. Although I believe that a 122-unit project is a good start, I hope that this is not the only affordable housing plan because of how large the population is. Also, I urge that the city take steps to stop gentrification and begin investing in local businesses because it is counterproductive to continue to raise the cost of living while you are already struggling to create affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Caller, state your name and the items you want to speak on. Go ahead.
Yes, the goat puppet, famous food critic. All items in the general comment.
You have 3 minutes.
All items in general comment, human. Well, I heard you.
It's
Yes.
sir.
Yes. So, it doesn't sound like Gil's listening. He doesn't care. But Goat Puppet cares. And again, what are we really doing in this meeting? Funneling federal and state funds through a municipal corporation to filthy, dirty developers. That's all we do. We don't build anything except expensive housing. And when we do abide by affordable housing, we charge $675,000 a unit when the same developer can build it for half of that. But what does the FBI do? Well, I brought a special guest. I have one of the agents here. Mr. FBI agent, would you like to take it over?
Oh, sir. It's quite an honor to speak to you distinguished individuals. I just want to let you know that you're free to steal all you want. We basically can't do shit because all of our cooperating witnesses, they're not talking to us. They're just, this one asshole, he takes a 6-year sentence and he just says he's going to take it for the team. So I don't know. I think you guys could do a better job, but again, that people elected you folks, and you folks can do whatever the fuck you want. Back to you, Mr. Puppet.
Thank you. Isn't that wonderful? And then we have the Jordan Downs Project. Yes, and lots. And you're afraid of it gentrifying. In other words, you're afraid of Asian people moving in there. You just want poor, drug addict black people to live there, rather than these rich fucking Asians and these rich Jews gentrifying the neighborhood. No, Joey Buckets doesn't want that. He wants to keep Watts a ghetto. Goat Puppet wants to turn Watts into a beautiful, thriving, middle-class, upper-middle-class community. And then, of course, we have our general comment. And the general comment is that basically we're going to have 2 trials coming up in August 2022. How do you know that? Oh, I went to the federal courthouse Monday. I saw Mr. Wright, the DWP executive, getting sentenced to 6 goddamn fucking years in prison for a bribe that not only could he not take, but was never really on the table. Oh, really? Yes, and he's asking for your forgiveness. Gil, will you forgive David Wright for his sins? Let us bow our heads, everybody. Gil, bow your head, everybody.
Your time is
Do
up,
we
sir.
forgive?
Thank you, caller. Caller, please state your name and the items you want to speak on. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Daylin Smith, and I'd like to address item 3 on the agenda.
You have 1 minute.
I just wanted to express my support for the motion. Preventing the gentrification of the Watts neighborhood is an important undertaking, and given preferential treatment to current residents who are interested in the Jordan Downs redevelopment seems like a great way to prevent community members from being pushed out by outsiders. We've already seen the negative effects of widespread gentrification all throughout Los Angeles in areas that are culturally and historically rich, but also under-resourced like Watts. And I believe that it is important that those in the Watts community who've advocated for investment in their neighborhood are able to reap the benefits of their labor. So this is why I urge the council to approve this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all we have for public comment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Let's go forward with item 1.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Item 1 is a motion, Krikorian, O'Farrell, Martinez, Rahman, De Leon, relative to a report to identify voluntary water conservation, energy efficiency, and renewable energy recommendations in the Systematic Code Enforcement Program as an added service to building owners and tenants, including a description of strategies to share information about common measures and opportunities to partner with the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power to...
Mr. Bercomo.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bercomo,
Yes, sir.
let me interrupt you. You and I are on different pages. I'm looking at the communications from the mayor relative to a appointment that's been withdrawn.
Yes, sir. My
Could be
apologies.
mistaken, but I don't think. Okay, so let's go back to that one, the communications from the mayor. You have that, sir?
Yes, sir. Item 1 is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment and withdrawal from consideration of Mr. Gerard Garcia to the Affordable Housing Commission.
Okay. So we will dispense with that, receive and file, and let's move forward to item number 2.
Yes, sir. Item number 2 is a city administrative officer and Los Angeles Housing Department reports and resolution relative to issuing a tax-exempt multifamily conduit revenue note in an amount not to exceed $35,933,000 and a taxable multifamily conduit revenue note in an amount not to exceed $25 million to finance the construction of the 120-unit affordable housing project known as the Manchester Urban Homes located at 8721 through 8765 South Broadway.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move that this become part of our consent item and move that we adopt the CAO's recommendations on this. Mr. Lee, is that you clamoring to second this matter?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Harris-Dawson. Let's do a roll call on this.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Cedillo,
It's the aye.
Councilmember Rahman,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris-Dawson,
Yes.
Councilmember Krikorian, absent. Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
4 members. This item is approved.
Great. Want to tell us about item number 3, Mr. Bercomo?
Yes, sir. Motion, Buscaino Price, relative to the adoption of a Watts-based geographic preference policy for the Jordan Downs redevelopment effort in order to prevent gentrification and displacement.
Okay, is Ms. Becker available? And if the mayor's office has a rep, we'd be happy to hear from them. Hi, Allison.
Hi, good afternoon. For the record, Allison Becker. I'm a senior advisor to Councilman Buscaino. Thank you so much for giving me a moment today to speak to you and request your support for a new neighborhood housing preference policy at HACLA. As you may know, the redevelopment of Jordan Downs is really a living laboratory where we're working with all best practices available to transform a public housing site without displacement. And we're so enthusiastic and grateful for the deep commitment that HACLA, the development team, the city, and all of our community partners have to ensure that the benefits of the transformation extend beyond the limits of the site and deeply into the community. Ensuring that residents of the Watts community have a path to rent stabilized housing is a key feature of our Watts Rising Displacement Avoidance Plan. We know that other municipalities with active public housing redevelopments have been successful in crafting geographic preference policies, and we believe that now is the time for us to develop one here. Now, I have the pleasure of introducing Miss Ivory Shambeshi, if she is willing. She's really the mastermind behind the research, working on a day-to-day basis on the Watts Rising project for the mayor's office. And she may have another couple of things to say and or could answer specific questions about this proposal. But at this time, we would urge your support to advance this policy development initiative at HACLA. Thank you.
Ms. Ivory?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Allison. We've been very, very grateful for the partnership with Councilman Buscaino's office and his leadership in different areas. And as Allison said, my name is Ivory Chambeshi, and I'm the Director of Neighborhood Initiatives for the Watts Rising Collaborative, and I serve in Mayor Garcetti's Office of Economic Opportunity. And while I very much appreciate Allison's gracious comments, and I have been a thought leader in this area, I am representing many conversations with Watts residents over the years, as well as thought partnership with housing rights advocates that we've engaged with, and then also some students who, you know, they provide wonderful elbow grease to any research initiative. So in a nutshell, HACLA can be lauded for the conscientiousness with which it's started to engage in this redevelopment by its early research into other housing, public housing redevelopments, and they have the strategy of build first. So with build first, the existing residents of Jordan Downs will locate into the new units that are being built. They don't move off site, you know, and kind of repeat the challenges of old school public housing redevelopment, if you will. However, while there will not be any direct displacement for current residents of the Jordan Downs public housing community, on the neighboring streets and in the broader community, there is an impact to this redevelopment in terms of raising property values in an area with a low-income population that has already struggled with housing insecurity. So between our nonprofit renters' rights service providers, anecdotes from our Watts Rising Street team, which is our dedicated outreach team, we regularly receive information about residents who are facing eviction, tenant, landlord harassment, etc. So from the research that we've conducted, we've identified that San Francisco is a model for consideration of a housing preference policy where Watts residents don't just get added to a general lottery and are pulled out based on, you know, statistical averages, but instead, given their long tenure in the community and that many of them advocated for the very improvements that are now being received by their community, that they would receive priority access to the non-replacement units of the Jordan Downs. So we think there's value in the city exploring a similar policy. And while, you know, some of the initial reaction when some of you may be aware of with San Francisco's policy is that that there was litigation that might have stopped the policy or put it on pause. That litigation was actually resolved, and the city of San Francisco is actively using a preference policy. And HUD was able to, you know, hear and agree with the argument that was made that such a policy is not counter to the Fair Housing Act. It is actually in support of the Fair Housing Act by keeping an existing diverse community diverse. So there are definitely some nuances within, you know, how we might, or how you all, excuse me, royal we, it's you all in your legislative processes. There's some nuances in how it might be applied, and there needs to be added research into how to establish disparate impact, the case for disparate impact, and the you know, dynamics of an existing predominantly Latinx and African American community might be preserved and allowed to thrive. And you know, I would welcome that discussion and know that we have some strong analysts and advocates within our city family that can get to a place where we can consider how to craft it carefully and potentially adopt it here in the city of Los Angeles. And thank you for the opportunity to share, and also for considering this policy that within our Watts Rising Collaborative, which is a multi-sectoral initiative with strong community voice and community advocacy. You know, we've been considering this and exploring it for about 3 years now in the course of our Transformative Climate Communities grant activities. And we invite your feedback and you know, any questions you may have that I hope to be able to answer, but may not be able to.
Thank you, Ivory. Any
Thank you.
comments, colleagues? Anybody want to participate in this, or I'm prepared to move this forward so we can go forward and serve the city? Ms. Rahman, please.
I just had a question. I'm happy to move this forward. I'm really excited about this idea, but I just had a question for you, Ivory, and actually my planning staffer who staffs me for this committee said she admires you so much from working with you on the Jordan Downs project at HACLA. So really excited to see you here and to see you continuing all the work that she so admired before as well. I'm really curious about, so what they've done in San Francisco is interesting and exciting, and I think a really positive response to issues related to displacement and gentrification that can emerge when we make much needed investments in neighborhoods. I think this helps us get at some of the contradictions that come when you put money into a neighborhood that desperately needs it. How do you account for some of the unintended consequences? And I think this is a really exciting path forward. I'm really curious, I know because this is focused on one project or one area, and I'm curious about how we can apply this beyond this particular initiative. I think the redevelopment project that's happening here is similar to what has been done in San Francisco. And I'm curious to see, are there ways to do this kind of local preference program for units created from TOC or from all of the other places where we're doing affordable housing construction in LA? I know that there was some Fair Housing Act violations that were initial concerns around some of these issues. So I'm kind of curious about where you see the broader applicability of this. I know it's really exciting for this redevelopment project, but curious about whether you think this is a broader strategy that we can think about in LA as we move forward.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Rahman. I really appreciate that. And may I ask who your deputy is?
Meg Healy.
Okay.
She was fairly, yeah, I think she worked with you on some grant applications and.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Feedback. The short answer is absolutely. In the San Francisco model, the site that was kind of like the test site for this initial the fair housing fight component was not was just one site within the city of San Francisco. And the reason that we have considered the public housing site is really because it's low hanging fruit. It just so happens that within Watts Rising we fall under the umbrella of the Housing Authority, and like Allison said, we have this test case about the possibility to pilot such an initiative, and the only reason that kind of the federal question gets into the mix is because the Jordan Downs redevelopment is partially federally funded, but there isn't, a requirement that it would just have to go on a public housing site. That just so happens to be, the test case. So, I'm a champion of affordable housing access, and I'm so inspired by Jalen Smith, the public comment that was given, and think, it's very much reasonable and necessary to consider something like this citywide.
I couldn't agree more, and thank you for this. Looking forward to seeing the results.
Great. Mr. Harris Dawson? You good? Mr. Lee? Okay. Thank you for the motion, Mr. Lee. Move to approve the motion as stated. Can we call roll, Mr. Bercomo?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
Councilmember Rahman.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris Dawson.
Yes.
Councilmember Krikourian absent. Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
4 ayes. This item is approved.
Shall we adjourn, colleagues?
Sure.
Yes? Okay. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Go out and serve the people of the city. Thank you so much.